Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We are going to demystify the magic behind the everyday websites we literally all use. Sites like YouTube, Amazon, and ChatGPT. We're going to do this by breaking down the absolute core technologies that power them. I am incredibly excited to guide you through this because, honestly, by the end of our time together, you're going to look at your web browser in a completely different way. Seriously, have you ever actually stopped and wondered how these seamless, beautiful digital experiences are constructed from scratch? Like when you open up a new tab and start typing, what is actually happening behind the glass of your screen? Well, every single website you visit is built upon a surprisingly simple foundation, and today we're going to unpack exactly what that is. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover the web's 3 pillars. Second, HTML, structuring the web. Third, CSS, designing the experience. Fourth, JavaScript, adding the functionality. Fifth, synergy, how they unite. And finally, number 6, the modern web ecosystem. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the web's 3 pillars, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, let's dive into this. Listen, if there's only one thing you remember from this entire explainer, make it right here. This is our core mantra. HTML provides structure. CSS provides design. JavaScript provides functionality. I really want you to keep this rhythm in your head as we move forward. These 3 fundamental technologies are the absolute bedrock of modern web development, and they each have a very distinct, specialized job to do. Moving right along to section 2, HTML, structuring the web, we call this the skeleton. So, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Think of HTML as the skeleton of a human body. Just as the skeleton gives the underlying shape and support to your body, HTML gives essential structure to a website. Absolutely everything visible on a web page has to start right here. Without HTML, a web page would literally have no structure and no content. It's the absolute starting point of digital creation. When we look a little closer at the skeleton, we can see exactly what elements it's made of. HTML gives us our headings, going from a major H1 title all the way down to a smaller H6. It gives us paragraphs for text, images for graphics, and links so we can navigate between pages. But I really want to draw your attention to forms at the bottom of this list. Think about login pages, registration screens, or even just the search bar on Google. Whenever you're entering information on a website, you're directly interacting with an HTML form. Next up is section 3, CSS, designing the experience. Think of this as the clothing. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Let's extend that human body analogy we were just using. If HTML is the bare skeleton, CSS is the clothing. It's the skin, the eye color, and all the decorations that control the web page's appearance and layout. It's in charge of colors, fonts, spacing, borders, shadows, and even those smooth animations you see. Without CSS, trust me, the web would be a very, very boring place to look at. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact difference. In your mind's eye, just picture a plain text document. Black text on a stark white background, everything shoved to the far left of the screen. That is exactly what a website looks like with only HTML. But then compare that to professional, highly polished layouts. Think of the sleek, dark interface of Netflix or the colorful feed of Facebook. That visual transformation, that is 100% thanks to CSS. Modern users absolutely expect websites to be visually appealing, and CSS is the tool that makes it happen. But here's the crucial point. CSS doesn't just make things pretty, it makes them usable. A real game changer here is responsive design. Whether you open a site on a giant desktop monitor, a laptop, a tablet, or just a smartphone in your pocket, the website needs to automatically adjust to fit perfectly. CSS pulls off this magic through powerful techniques like media queries, Flexbox, and CSS Grid. They seamlessly shift content into columns or grids so it's always perfectly readable, no matter what device you're on. All right, bringing us to section 4, JavaScript, adding the functionality. These are the muscles. Now we get to JavaScript. This is the true programming language of the web. To wrap up our human body analogy, we've got the HTML skeleton, we've got the CSS clothing, and now JavaScript acts as the muscles. It creates functionality and allows the website to respond instantly to your actions. Without JavaScript, websites would be largely static, kind of like reading a magazine. JavaScript turns that magazine into a dynamic, living, breathing application. So what kind of heavy lifting do these muscles actually do? Well, JavaScript gives us dynamic content, meaning the screen updates without you having to hit the refresh button. Think of live notifications popping up or that infinite scrolling you do on a social media feed. It handles form validation too. Have you ever typed an email address and it instantly warns you about a typo before you even hit send? That's JavaScript. And incredibly, it handles API communication. When a live weather app pulls down the forecast or a dashboard updates stock prices in real time, that's JavaScript sending a request to a server, grabbing the data, and displaying it instantly. Which perfectly leads us into section 5, synergy, how they unite and start working together. Let's see how this all comes together using a super simple example, just a basic button on a page. Step 1, HTML actually writes the element onto the page so it physically exists. Step 2, CSS steps in. It rounds the corners, turns the background a bright blue, and changes the text color to white. Then, step 3, JavaScript waits patiently in the background. When you finally click that blue button, JavaScript springs into action and determines exactly what happens next. They are completely distinct technologies, but they cooperate flawlessly. Let's look at another real-world mini-narrative, a login page. You navigate to a site to sign in. The HTML has already provided the skeleton. It gave us the username fields, the password field, and the login button. The CSS is making sure the page looks trustworthy, visually attractive, and fits perfectly on your mobile screen. You type in your credentials and hit login. Instantly, JavaScript takes over. It acts like a bouncer, checking to make sure you didn't accidentally leave the password field empty, and verifying your email format is actually valid. Only when JavaScript gives the green light does it send your request off to the server. It's a perfect handoff between structure, design, and functionality. Let's zoom out a bit for section 6, the modern web ecosystem, looking beyond the browser. Now, stepping into the professional realm, developers rarely build massive applications just typing out basic files from scratch anymore. Interestingly enough, though, even multi-million-dollar platforms like Facebook or Netflix still fundamentally compile down to basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But to build them faster, developers use some incredibly advanced tools. On the front end, they use frameworks like React, Angular, or Vue to build complex interfaces quickly. On the back end, the servers that process things like your login requests, they use technologies like Node.js, Django, Laravel, or Spring Boot. And they store all your data in databases like MongoDB, MySQL, or PostgreSQL. But the massive takeaway I want you to have here is this. No matter how complex the framework or the database is, it all eventually comes right back to our 3 fundamental pillars. Mastering HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is the first and most important step toward becoming a professional web developer. This quote really hits the nail on the head and summarizes our entire journey today. Whether you want to build a simple personal portfolio, a complex SaaS platform, or literally the next massive AI-powered web app, these 3 pillars are your absolute non-negotiable foundation. We've officially deconstructed the magic. You now know that behind every single digital experience lies the HTML skeleton, the CSS clothing, and the JavaScript muscles working together in perfect harmony. The foundational tools of the internet are no longer a mystery to you. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. With the 3 pillars of the web now at your fingertips, what will you build? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.